Today we celebrate the solemnity of the Most Holy Trinity. We honor the three persons of the Trinity, and we're used to honoring the persons individually. Recently we just had the Feast of Pentecost, and even in the Mass, all the prayers are addressed to the Father through the Son and through the Holy Spirit, so very Trinitarian in nature. So this is something very common to us as Catholics, as Christians. But sometimes Catholics have a hard time explaining to someone what we really believe about the Trinity. In fact, some years ago I had seen a video, and it was done by someone who was not a Catholic, so someone who was actually anti-Catholic, and he went around asking Catholics to explain what the Trinity is. And I think he only took the bad explanations, and he made a video of all these bad explanations. But, you know, they had some nuns there, and it was just like they did a terrible job, and basically they couldn't explain the Trinity. So it's important for us to be reminded of what we believe in when we speak about the Trinity, when we speak about God. So as Catholics, as Christians, we believe in one God, but that there are three persons in God: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now, this is fairly simple, but somebody might say, well, isn't that a contradiction? You know, one and three? It would only be a contradiction if we meant it in the same sense. So in other words, a thing can't both be and not be in the same respect at the same time. But when we say that God is one, we're talking about his essence or his being or what he is. But when we talk about the personhood of God, what we're talking about is the who. So not the what, but the who. And when it comes to God, he's a mysterious being. Yes, he's pure spirit, which is hard for us to comprehend because we're so used to living in a material world, and we tend to think according to material realities. But God is pure spirit, and he is a trinity of persons. And sometimes non-Catholics will accuse us of what's referred to as the heresy of modalism, which, of course, we don't believe in. But they say, oh, you Catholics, you really believe that God is one being, one person, and that he just manifests himself sometimes as a father figure, sometimes like our brother, like Christ, and other times like the Holy Spirit. But that's not at all what we believe. We believe that each of the persons are truly distinct. The Father is not the Son or the Holy Spirit. The Son is not the Father and not the Holy Spirit. So each person is distinct from the other. Sometimes in school, I'll ask the students, you know, these three persons of the Trinity, are they three parts of God? How would you answer that? Would you say that the three persons of the Trinity are three parts of God? The answer is no, they are not three parts of God. You see, each person of the Trinity is fully God. If they were only parts of God, neither one of them would be fully God. And God would be incomplete without the three persons. So in other words, when we take a circle, for example, and divide it into three, each one of those pie shapes is not the full circle. But when it comes to God, each one of the persons is fully God, but there's only one God. And I think in previous years, sometimes I'll refer to what various theologians, they talk about the fact that because we're created in the image of God, if we understand something about ourselves, it can help us to understand something about God. So what I usually say is, when I think of myself, I have a conscious awareness of myself. In my mind, I form an image of myself. But that image is not perfect, and it's just an image. But in the mind of God, he has a conscious awareness of himself. He forms this image of himself, but in the mind of God, it's perfect. And everything pertaining to God has existence, including this image of himself. So this image of himself has his existence, and it's also conscious. It's alive. It's not just an image. So it's the Father forms this perfect image of himself, which proceeds from him from all eternity, which we call the Son. And so the Son is the perfect image of the Father, identical to the Father. And the love between the two of them, the love that they have for each other, is the Holy Spirit. And that's a little bit harder to explain, but the Holy Spirit is also an image of the Father and the Son. And each one is distinct from the other, but this whole process takes place within one being from all eternity. And St. John, he tells us that God is spirit, but he also tells us that God is love. God is love. And what exactly does that mean? It doesn't just mean that God is loving. God is love. And the only way that God can be love is if he's constantly loving within himself from all eternity. And this can only happen if there's a multiplicity of persons within God, which there, of course, are. So in other words, God is constantly loving. The Father loves the Son loves the Father, and the Holy Spirit is involved in this love also. So God is love, and because we are created in the image of God, it's a reminder to us that each one of us are also called to love. And when we think of the persons of the Trinity, each one has their own, consciousness, right? So each one is the I. So I am I, and you are you. So the I and the you. And you need the you in order to truly love. Now, it's true, sometimes we love ourselves in an inordinate way, inappropriately, or in a selfish way, and we tend to use others for our own benefit, which of course is wrong, it's bad, it's sinful. But we are called to love the you, not just the I, but the you. In other words, we need other persons in order to love. And I had mentioned before that love is extremely fulfilling. We think of young couples who are romantically in love. They're very happy. But it's not just romantic love. We can think of familial love, like the love of not just spouses, but parents for their children, or children for their parents, and siblings, the love that siblings have, or the love that friends have for one another. So we are called to love everyone, basically. And this activity of loving, when St. John says that God is love, his primary activity is love. This activity of loving for us is what really fulfills us and makes us content and happy even here and now. It's what really makes us to be the full human being that we are called to be. To be able to love as we are called to love. To do that, we have to have self-control. We have to be detached from things, from our own will, from our own sinful desires. So it's a challenge for us to be able to love as we are called to. But first and foremost, we are called to love God. And I think it's a challenge for all of us. In other words, I'm sure all of us fall short of loving God as much as we should. And we probably fall short of loving our neighbor as much as we should. And so I propose to you that you consider for yourself whether you want to be really happy or not. In other words, if we understand that love makes us happy, and especially if we are engaged in loving, now yes, it's true we need to be loved in return, but God already loves us. And the more that we love others, the more they will love us in return. So my proposal to you, my challenge to you, or my question to you is, what can you do? Or I propose to you, think of what you can do to determine for yourself what you can do to grow in your love of God and to manifest that love more fully, but also to grow in love of neighbor and to manifest that love more fully in your lives.